All right, welcome to lesson 7. In this lesson, we're going to move files between our home machine and the machine at the wood shop. And once we get it to the wood shop, of course, we can send this information over to the X-Carve and actually do the CNC work that we've created. So here we go. We'll log in, and I'm going to pick this file that I created for this purpose. And you notice it's similar to the file we did in lesson 3. In fact, the characters are the same, but I made some changes. I reduced the size of the board, and I moved the drawings a little closer together. So to save a CNC, the first thing we want to do, the CNC file, is to run our simulation. Since I moved some things, we'd have to run the simulate again to make sure that we put everything in the proper place. And as you can see, this is going to take about an hour to run. And if we look at it, there are some uncut areas with our 16th inch bit. Let me shut off the toolpath for a minute. And you see just a few spots, I think. Bring it up a little bit. I can pick them out. It says there's some uncut areas. Let's see if we can find them. I can't pick it out here, but suffice to say, there are some uncut areas, but obviously they're very small and something we're not going to worry about. It's probably something to do with the size of the bit and making this corner here that's supposed to be square and it's not square. So really not going to worry about that too much. Anyway, let's go back to our toolpath. Now that we ran this code, I'm going to create some G code. And the G code is what controls the X, Y, and Z axes. When we send the G code over to the X-Carve, it goes into a small microcontroller that's in the big black box underneath the machine. And that microcontroller runs some software that sends the G code to the X, Y, and Z axis and provides the movement that we require. So let's, now that we know we have our G code created, we know the file on this side is a drawing, and it would be saved in SVG format. That's structured vector graphics. And it's basically a 2D graphics with some 3D components, some depth components to it. So we're not interested in that right now. We're just interested in the G code. So we're going to download the G code. All right, so what does it do? It brings the download over. In my case, my default folder for downloads is the download folder that Windows created. And yours may be different, but most of you are probably set up to use the Windows default. Anyway, I'm going to open the file here. When you open the file, you're going to see that bunch of G codes. Amazing. I'd opened it in Notepad, which is a text editor. And you'll notice all this G code, and it goes on and on and on. These are all the codes that move the various motors in the X-Carve and move the router bit to the points where we created here. And it's going to follow these lines that we've brought up with the simulation. So this is what's actually inside the machine. Let's close that down a minute. You can also open the folder right here. And I'm using Windows 11. Yours may be just a little different. In Windows 11, you'll see that we have this NC file saved in the download folder. I'm going to copy it. This is the copy. And I'm going to move it over to my USB drive. My USB drive is, in my case, is the E drive, but yours might be a little different. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to right click in here. New. Click the wrong button there. Let me delete that. New folder. All right, in this folder I'm going to call CNC downloads. And I'm going to click the wrong one here. double click the CNC downloads, and I'm going to paste that file here. This is my paste button up here. Again, if you're running Windows 10, it's a little different. So here's my my NC file, which you know if it's an NC file, we know that it's actually the G code, and it's on my USB drive. I can take the USB drive or thumb drive down to the shop, and I'll have the G code ready to go. Another way to save this file, to go to the project menu, is to download a project, and this is a zip file. When you press that, it asks whether you want to do all work pieces or the current work piece. In this case, we only have one work piece. I don't think we've covered work pieces yet, but you can actually have various segments of your drawing separated. And when you do that, they're called work pieces. And we'll cover that in one of the later lessons. Anyway, we're going to download the zip file of all work pieces. And notice this now. Before we had Lesson 7 Moving Projects.nc. Now we have Lesson 7 Moving Projects.zip. Right now I'm going to take this immediately. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to my USB drive again. I'm going to look for my downloads folder where I already have my G code. And I'm going to paste it here. All right, but what I've got is a compressed file. But right click on the compressed file, I can extract. And that's what I want to do here. In other words, we have to take those files that are squished together and separate them. So this is how we're going to do it. Lesson 7 Moving Projects, and we're going to extract. All right. So notice we have two files. Let me click out of that. We have a compressed zip file, and we have a file folder. They both have the same name. We're interested in when it says file folder. We double click on that, and you'll notice it brings up Lesson 7 Moving Projects. And we bring that up again, and it says there's a work piece. Double click on that. There are two things we have. One is a design, which is a scalable vector graphics file. We talked about that a minute ago. That would be the representation of our drawing here. There's also a text document called settings. I'm going to open that up right now just to show you what's in it. Notice we opened up again in Notepad. And what does it have? It tells you what kind of material we use. It tells you the size of the board, and it tells you what bits you use. The reason you have to have a separate file is that a scalable vector graphics file cannot hold that information. There's no means to do it, so it has to be a separate file. So make sure you understand that, and make sure you bring both of these documents over there. The settings file, really, you could just print it out if you wish, and make sure that you put that in once we bring it back into the system, and we'll show you how to do that later. So let's, for now, X out of that. We'll close this down, and we'll go and look at the third way of doing it. This may be the way that you'll use most times. It's probably the easiest one to do, and I don't know, I prefer it to the other types of downloads, but all of them are available to you. This is called sharing something. Now to share something, we just say, click it, as it usually comes up default to private, but we want it unlisted. And what we're going to do is we look at this, we can just copy that link. And now it's copied, all right? So we can close this. Now I'm going to go and open up a file. In my case, I'm going to use the menu. And you will need to go and find a file called Notepad. I'm going to bring up Notepad. And what I'm going to do is paste that in there. Now this is the link to that, to our work. And we need to save that. So I'm going to do a file, save. And it's going to ask me where do I want to save it and what do I want to save. So I'm going to move over to my USB drive, E drive, and In this case, okay, finally. All right, anyway, we're going to go to CNC downloads. And this time we're going to save this, and we have to give it a file name. So I'm going to call it lesson 7, and I'm going to call it link, because that's what it is. And notice that it's a text file saved as in the format of TXT, which is a text file. Let me close this out. All right. Now if we go into our folder, or Windows, File Explorer, and just look at our USB drive. See, I can do it right this time. I'll click on something else. There we go. And I'm going to look at my downloads. All right. If you look, you can see that we have actually 4 things here, but one is the compressed zip file. That's the original file. We really don't need that anymore. We could delete that because what we've done is extract all the information into this file folder here. So I'm going to delete the zip file because we don't need it anymore. All right. So now we have 3 files that are important to us. One is the file folder that has, if you remember, we double click on this and work our way down the structure here. Get past the workpiece and we'll see our design, scalable vector graphics, and our text document. Let's work our way back up again. We have that, we said the zip file that we unzipped. We have the NC file, which is G-code, and we have a text document that has the link. So there's 3 ways we can download something to work on the CNC machine at the shop. So we have them all on our thumb drive. Let's close this out. I'm going to log out here. In fact, I'll just close it down. And what I'm going to do is come back in to Easel, and this time I'm going to log into the woodshop account. Now I have a copy of this account so that I can do these lessons, but this account is set up down at the shop, and you do not have to know the password. It is saved for you down there. Anyway, you can see what we're going to do is set up a new project, because we're going to bring that the drawings in that we made in various ways. So let's go to project, and we're going to import stuff. This time we're going to start with the same. I don't know why they did it in different ways, but let's import the SVG. Okay, and we're going to go to our file folder in our USB drive, right? CNC downloads, and lesson 7, moving projects. Workpiece 1, here's our design. It's looking for an SVG type file. Notice down here, this is the file type it's looking for, and it found one there called design. And we're going to open that. When we open it, lo and behold, we have our drawing situated on the graph paper. However, let's take a look over here. Look at the size of the piece of wood. If you recall, in our text file that we looked at before, and let me bring that up so you can see that. I'll bring that up. Bring that up separately. It doesn't come up within the Easel software. So let's go down to my USB drive, to my downloads, to my file folder, and we'll work our way down. Again, this time we're looking for settings, and I'm going to double click on that, which should open the file in Notepad or some text editor. Right? And notice we have birch plywood. We need a material that's 9x6, and we're using a 16th inch bit. Let me minimize that window. I'll close this out. Let's look what we have here. We don't have the right size plywood, do we? So we need to change this. The width is 9. The height was 6. So that's set. We don't have the right bit. We had a 16th inch bit. Now we have to change the bit. I'll change the bit. Now we have what we had in the other machine. However, look at where the SVG file is located. Notice that he doesn't have any specific place he had him. We did not have him set to the left corner. Everything's set to 0 here. See it? We had it up a little bit, so we had some room for our clamps to move. So we can take it and move it somewhere in the center, or we could just hit edit, which is probably the easy way to do it, and send the material. Now we have room around it for all our clamps. All right? And now that we have this all set up, now we can simulate. When we simulate, basically we're creating the same G code that we created before in the on your machine at home. And look, it takes about an hour and a minute. Doesn't always come out exactly the same, but it's about an hour to do this. Right? So now this is ready to run on the CNC machine, and you're ready to go. All right, let's using Control Z. I'll go work my way back and get rid of all this stuff. There we go. Doesn't get rid of that. And this time I'm going to import the G code. This is important. We're going to choose a file. We're going to go to our USB drive again. And we're going to go our downloads. And notice there's only one NC file. See it right here? Lesson 7 Moon Project.nc. So we're going to open that file. All right, so what happened now? Oh boy, well, we lost our screen on the left, the graph paper. Well, we don't need that anymore. We weren't using graph paper in this case. We're just bringing the CNC information in. So if you notice, this is our waste board here. This is our board is highlighted underneath here. And this is actually the G code. Notice there's no coloration for the board because while we know that we use birch plywood, the birch plywood was really used only to assist in making the proper speeds and feeds for the CNC machine. And that does change. If you use a harder wood, the feeds and speeds will change a little bit. Use a softer wood, they'll move a little faster. Harder wood, they'll move a little slower. So the post-processor in Easel handles that. But we've already done that, so we don't need that information here. The feeds and speeds are already preset. We downloaded them. We've moved them over now to the woodshop machine, and we're ready to carve. So we can proceed with our carve right here. Let's go back. This is a little harder to go back, but let me have to clear this out. Yeah, I should have done this in a different order. Okay. Let me go back. I'm going to close this out and delete it, okay? And then I'm going to bring it back in again. Hang on a minute. I'm going to bring it back in again using my SVG file. No, I'm not going to do it that way. Hang on a minute. I'm going to bring it back in. I'm going to create a new project. Okay, now I have a screen. All right, let's get rid of that one. All right, we're going to create a new project. Now we're going to go to project and we're going to share. Notice that we can share something. So how do we do that? Well, if you remember before, we shared that to a link. And what we have up, if you look at this up here, this is the link to this new project that we just created. Notice the numbers on the end here. That's the link to this particular project. If we take this and highlight it and go to our USB drive, and this time we're going to go to our downloads folder. This time we're going to find the link. Notice we're going to double click on the link and it's going to open our file in Notepad, and we're going to be able to copy our link. So Control C or Edit Copy, one or the other would do it. Minimize that, minimize this. Now I can paste that link right up here. Watch the letters on the end, they'll change. So notice that we're now opening the project that we created under your user ID at home. And he's importing them now. There it is. So notice in this case, hey, you're playing in the Easel sandbag. Well, what you have in front of you there is a copy of your work, and you can't change it or edit it anyway. So in order to use it, you actually have to make a copy of it. So let's make a copy. Okay. And now we actually have this in our, if we do a project open here, we'll see that we now have this copy of lesson 7 in our saved area. So let's go back to, click on that and go back to here. All right. Notice something else though. It actually has the size of the plywood and the bit. Everything has been saved. So that's why I say the using the shared feature is probably the easiest and most complete one. So again, we can hit the simulate button, and we're preparing this, preparing the Z code, which now we're going to send directly to the machine through Easel, not through the copy we have on a USB drive, but directly to Easel, since we have it within Easel right as we speak. And notice this time is about an hour still, and this is ready to carve now. So I think the share one is the preferred method of moving it, but we do have other methods at our disposal. I hope this is helpful. I know it's a little confusing, but if you practice a little bit, I think you'll be okay. And if you find one you like, be it share or publish or whatever, which one you choose, stick with it, and you'll usually be able to do this without too much difficulty. All right, see you in the next lesson. Have a good day.